Welcome to the 517 In Your Business podcast. Here's your host, Mary Guida.
We're back with another 517 In Your Business podcast. Katie Tucker from Sinas, Dramis Personal Injury Law has been on the podcast before. So happy to have you back. I learn something new every time you're here, Katie.
It's so wonderful to be back with you, Mary. Thank you so much for having us.
So we know that Sinas Dramis is Michigan's advocates for the injured. So we're talking about personal injury. And if someone's never hired a personal injury attorney before, it's got to feel overwhelming. So what's the first step?
The first step is a free consultation, and this is a chance for us to really hear from a prospective client for the first time, to hear their story, understand what they're going through. During an initial consultation, we'll talk about, specifically for our firm and handling personal injury matters, we'll talk about how the injury happened, what the prospective client has experienced in terms of medical care, medical treatment, what diagnoses they've received, what concerns they have moving forward with regard to that medical care and treatment, with regard to their ability to work, with regard to other lifestyle factors. And as that initial consultation really is not just about evaluating their damages and their legal case, although that's certainly part of it. It's really about understanding who the person is, what their life looks like, and how we can best help them. And that truly is individualized to each client that we represent.
Right. And it's a no pressure situation, I understand.
Absolutely. There is no pressure. We want, people to understand that it's truly an opportunity for you to get to know us as much as it is for us to get to know you. And it is a free consultation. If you choose to move forward with another law firm or not to move forward with your claim at all, that is absolutely fine. And there are many times where we have that initial consultation, and there are a variety of circumstances that result in no claim actually being pursued. But we want you to have that initial opportunity. And hiring a lawyer is an extremely important decision. We understand that. And we want you to feel comfortable and decide when the time is right for you.
So say we've had the consultation. I know I want to move forward. What's next?
If you are ready to move forward, we would have you sign a contingent attorney fee agreement with our firm, our standard contingency fee, and then we will work with our team. Every lawyer at the law firm is supported by a legal assistant and a paralegal. There's often more than one attorney working on any given case. So as a team, we work to create a customized strategy for a particular client based on their unique situation. No two clients, no two cases are the same. We will walk through with you your options, what the legal process itself will look like, timelines, potential steps in your involvement along the way, and then ultimately what outcomes we're looking to achieve, and making sure that we're on the same page with the client about what their goals are and what the goals of our representation are. Our real goal is to be honest and upfront, so that people can have the information that they need to make an informed decision and the best decision for themselves in terms of how to move forward with their claim.
Well, that honesty is so important. And it's probably safe to say that not every consultation actually turns into a case, especially because a lot of people may not be sure if they even have a case to begin with. So can we talk more about that and how they know whether they have a case?
Great point, Mary. And it is true. I think a big misconception is that just because you were injured, you do have a case. And unfortunately, that's not the case. Many times, unfortunately, we have to decline representation, or we are not able to move forward. And that is because the foundation of a personal injury case is an injury. And one of the first questions we ask is, what are your injuries? And trying to understand exactly what those injuries are. Specific to auto accidents in Michigan, there's a threshold injury standard that is codified in our state law. And there's a whole host of appellate authority. There's literally thousands of decisions of our Michigan Court of Appeals and Supreme Court touching on this issue. But unfortunately, if you have not sustained what the law refers to as a serious impairment of body function, even though you may have an injury, you may not be able to pursue a legal claim. So in short, just because you are injured does not automatically mean you have a personal injury case. It's really critical that you talk with an experienced lawyer familiar with personal injury law to help you analyze and determine whether you have a viable claim.
hmm So once it's clear there may be a case, people probably have to really wonder how much work they have to handle themselves. So what does it mean when you say that your firm handles the details?
When we say that we handle the details, it means we take on the administrative burden. So our clients don't have to. So we're essentially lifting that burden of taking care of things like insurance and dealing with insurance companies and adjusters, medical records, medical billing, receiving explanation of benefit statements, dealing with lien issues, gathering evidence, investigating. Those are all things that our law firm, our very capable team, take care of for you so that you can focus on what's really important, which is your health and getting better and hopefully your recovery from the injuries you sustained. So, one thing that sets us apart in the personal injury market is that our law firm takes on fewer cases than do some personal injury firms, which tend to take on a huge volume. But when that happens, unfortunately, the lawyers have less time to devote to any particular case. So by taking on intentionally fewer cases than do some others, that really allows us to spend the time that we need to handle all of those details and to give each case the attention it deserves.
Right. And I imagine that approach really changes what the experience can feel like for a client. I can't imagine the level of stress somebody feels in a case like
Oh,
this.
absolutely. And it's palpable. I mean, you can really feel it. And, fortunately our team is really trained to help people navigate that. But yes, absolutely. There's a tremendous amount of personal, sometimes financial stress and pain, during a lot of the cases that we handle.
So what should clients be focusing on while you're handling all the details?
Our goal is for the client to be able to focus on their healing, both physically and emotionally, and pursuing and obtaining the medical treatment that they need. We are not medical professionals. We encourage all of our clients to rely on and to follow the instructions of their medical treaters. But for them to be able to do that, and oftentimes it's very extensive treatment, especially with a more significant injury. I mean, a client may have multiple medical appointments in a given week, sometimes in a given day. And all of that is, certainly very time consuming, but also stressful. There's financial uncertainty and instability that accompanies all of that. So for us, we want to take the burden of handling those details that we talked about earlier off our client's shoulders so that they can really focus on their path to recovery, the medical treatment that's being recommended for them. And we want to support them through that process and give clients the space and time that they need to really heal.
Oh, that makes so much sense. And as the cases move forward, one of the biggest questions people probably wonder about is this actually going to get resolved? Do most of the cases go to court?
Great question, Mary. The vast majority of personal injury cases are resolved prior to litigation and certainly prior to trial. Our firm's approach is that we try to resolve as many cases as possible before litigation begins. And the reason for that is litigation is time consuming, it's expensive, and it's inherently uncertain. The outcome is inherently uncertain. So, as many cases as we can, it's our goal to resolve them pre-suit and through the investigation and the evaluation and the workup that we do leading up to filing a lawsuit. For those cases that we do need to initiate litigation, it's our goal to resolve them before we actually get to the point of trial. That can take anywhere from a year to 2 years, depending on the venue and the particular circumstances of a given case. But during that time, we are focused on preparing for trial, should that, inevitability happen, but attempting to negotiate with the insurance company, with the defendants, and to get our client the best offer that we can get for them. And again, if that offer doesn't come, we are fully prepared to take the next step. But our priority is to do what's best for the client with their timeline and their interests in mind. And again, in most cases, a better outcome is to avoid the expense, time, uncertainty that accompanies litigation and trial, and attempt resolution at earlier stages.
Right. So then if a case doesn't settle, people often are wondering what going to court really involves. What does the litigation process look like if it ends up in a courtroom?
Yeah. And this is a question, I get very frequently from a prospective client. What does this mean? What is this going to look like? What's my involvement? Litigation starts with the filing of a lawsuit, the filing of a complaint, typically in circuit court. Most of our cases are filed in state court in Michigan. And after the lawsuit is filed, there's a period called discovery. And that period is, just as it sounds, a chance for both sides, the plaintiff, the person who's been injured, and the defendant, the person who is alleged to have caused the injury, to gather information about the case, gather information about the parties through written exchange of information, but also through depositions. And those are akin to sworn statements. They take place outside the courthouse. They typically take place in a lawyer's office, but it's an opportunity for one side to ask questions of a witness or a party, and a court reporter is present transcribing what is being said, and the statements that are made are as if the person was testifying live in court. The step after discovery is typically mediation or case evaluation. Those are also known as alternative dispute resolution processes. In Michigan, case evaluation is not mandatory anymore under our current court rules, but that is an opportunity for plaintiff to go before a panel of 3 case evaluators to have their claim assessed and award issued. And both sides then have an opportunity to decide whether or not to accept the case evaluation award, and to resolve the case through that. Mediation is a formal negotiation process where there is a facilitator or a mediator who literally goes back and forth between the parties. Mediation also happens in custody cases or divorce cases, so you may be familiar with it in that realm. But in the civil law context, in the context of a personal injury case, the mediator is typically a lawyer who is attempting to broker a negotiation and a settlement. If all of those steps fail to result in a settlement or agreement between the parties to resolve the case, the next step would be to move forward to pretrial or a formal settlement conference with the court, and then ultimately to trial. And trial is the last step at the circuit court level, at least. Trial is typically by jury in this context, and a jury will ultimately render a verdict. And that verdict is potentially subject to an appeal, which gives rise to a whole host of other timelines and other steps in the process. But the general process is filing the complaint, discovery, some sort of alternative dispute resolution process, and then ultimately trial and a verdict.
There's so much to know. And I said earlier that Sinas Dramis is Michigan's advocates for the injured. And I have to assume that part of that advocacy is really keeping your clients informed and supported through the process. How do you do that?
Great question, Mary. I think the best way we can do that is to be effective communicators and to keep our clients updated on the case progress, the status. Certainly, any important decisions that have to be made are always the client's decisions to make with our guidance. But ultimately, it's your claim, it's your case. You are driving the bus. We are there to give you directions and to help navigate you. But the decision about where to go is always the client's. And really taking time to discuss concerns, understand the client's goals, because the client's goals really have to dictate the direction that's taken in the case.
Right.
And we modify our approach based on particular client circumstances and what those goals are. So I think fostering that open line of communication and being transparent and honest with our client, and allowing them to drive the bus, but taking that backseat and providing the navigation is really what I think makes them feel supported throughout what can be a long and difficult process.
Absolutely. And I think that level of support is often where the law firms can really be different from one another. So tell me what sets Sinas Dramis apart from other personal injury firms.
Sinas Dramis has been around since 1951. So for more than 75 years now, our mission has been to be Michigan's advocates for the injured. We don't just handle cases. We truly stand alongside our clients, and we pursue advocacy efforts that matter to our clients. We're not focused on huge volume or quick, fast turnaround and outcomes. I've handled cases that have gone on for years, in some cases. We don't only handle cases that are worth a certain dollar amount or, where we expect to have some specific gain. We really pride ourselves on getting to know our clients and focusing on their individual goals and needs and doing what is called for in a particular case and for that particular client. And it's really important to us that our clients understand that they matter, because they do. And so I think it's a much more individualized approach that our law firm takes, and one that's really made us stand out over the last 7 decades of our service to the greater Lansing community and the Mid-Michigan community, and now across the entire state.
Yeah, it's a strong mission, and it's grounded in a set of values that guide how you approach every case. So can you talk about those values and how they impact the client experience?
I think the law firm's, values are really kind of rooted in this idea that we care, we are compassionate, we are ethical, we are leaders in our community. It's really important, again, for us, and not to beat a dead horse, because I've mentioned this before, but it's really important to us that our clients feel valued and that they matter and that their case is not simply a number. And we truly kind of treat them as they are part of our family, our extended family, as part of our law firm. And we truly do care what they're going through. And because we have walked this walk with so many clients in the past, we understand, to a large extent, what they are going through, and the challenges that they're facing, whether that be in terms of their health or the financial challenges, lifestyle challenges. There's a whole myriad of ways that injury impacts a person's life. It really impacts every aspect of their life. And so, because of our familiarity with that process, we can really empathize and show that compassion. We're very committed also to serving our community, and do that in a variety of ways. I know we've talked about before, Mary, on the podcast, some of the programs that the law firm is committed to, but Lids for Kids being one of them.
Yes.
To bike and helmet safety across the state, to prevent traumatic brain injury, especially in children. We do that through our public education platforms like People's Law School. A lot of the news segments that we do that are free resource to community members about what they need to know about ways that the law impacts them and their legal rights. So I think that leadership in the community is really an important value to the firm, and one, again, that has been a long legacy from the time that Sinas and Lee Dramis founded the firm back in 1951.
Yeah, and that is definitely the reputation you have, and it affects that overall experience. How could it compare to what a client might find at another firm?
Well, Mary, without without sounding a little too prideful or boastful, I will just say I feel very grateful to and very proud to work with such a tremendous group of attorneys. We have attorneys in Lansing, Grand Rapids, Ann Arbor, Detroit area, Kalamazoo, extremely experienced lawyers who are very committed to the cause of justice and to staying extremely knowledgeable and up to date on the state of the law and representing their clients with the utmost integrity. And I'm really, really proud to be among a group of colleagues that way. But what I think makes us stand out from some of the other law firms across the state who do similar work is that, because, again, we take fewer cases, we are able to give each client the attention that their case deserves. I believe that as a result of that, the interactions do not feel as impersonal or transactional as they may at a law firm that has a higher volume. And we really want to focus on the best outcome for the client rather than just a particular financial outcome. And again, I think some of those things are the things that make us stand out and apart, make me proud to be part of the law firm.
Right, and probably so meaningful for anyone who's gone through the trauma of a personal injury, whether they have a case or not. For someone listening who may be still a little unsure, we know that first call can be the hardest step. So what would you say to someone who's still just a little hesitant to reach out?
The first thing I would say is that's a completely normal feeling. It's
Mhm.
always, it's always scary when you're doing something new. And for most people, fortunately, who have been injured, hopefully this is the first such experience that they've had doing this. And so it's completely normal if you feel a little uncomfortable or unsure of what to expect. Hopefully this conversation is giving you a little more insight into what you can expect. But reaching out is truly a conversation with a lawyer, and there's nothing more. There's no pressure, there's no obligation. What you will get, or what you should expect to get, whether you call our law firm or any law firm across the state, is honest feedback about your situation. Whether you have a claim, hopefully the lawyer that you talk to is going to gather some additional information from you that will help them make that assessment, but also hopefully some guidance about what your legal rights are and options for you moving forward. Those are always my goals when I'm talking to a new prospective client. But if you feel a little uncomfortable or out of sorts about reaching out, know that literally you're all it is a phone call with a person just like me on the other end, who's going to ask you some questions about you and what's happened to you, and is hopefully going to give you some guidance that's going to help you make the next steps that you need to make to put yourself in the best position moving forward.
Right. Taken so much from this conversation, and our listeners probably have as well. But if they want to take away one message from you today, what should that be?
You don't have to go through this experience alone. If you've been injured, do not hesitate to reach out to our firm, to another firm. But the right legal team, whatever legal team you ultimately select, should do more than just handle your case. They should support you every step of the way. At our firm, that really means listening to your story, being honest and upfront with you, handling those details that we talked about earlier, and allowing you to focus on healing. Really, for us, it's about helping people get the justice they deserve and to move forward with their lives. And that's our goal in representing you. And that's the key message that I would hope listeners would take away.
So, if today's conversation helped any of our listeners better understand what to expect when working with a personal injury attorney, we want you to remember that the right team makes all the difference. At Sinas Dramis Law Firm, their mission is simple: to be Michigan's advocates for the injured and to do more for their clients every step of the way. So, to learn more or schedule a free consultation, you can visit sinasdramis.com. That's SINASDRAMIS.com. Katie, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mary. It's been a pleasure to be with you. And I looked forward to coming back, hopefully, to talk with you about some other topics in the future. Happy spring.
Thanks for listening to the 517 In Your Business podcast. Get to know local businesses better by reading 517 Business Magazine. Get your subscription at 517mag.com/subscribe.